Namaskar and welcome to Sansad Television. I am Vishal Dahiya and you're watching our show Perspective, where we bring you detailed analysis of key national and international issues. Today, we're going to talk about the Indus Water Treaty. Now, India has informed Pakistan of its intention to amend the Indus Water Treaty of 1960, which sets out a mechanism for management of cross-border rivers. According to reports, India was forced to issue the notice as Pakistan's actions had adversely impinged on the provisions of the treaty and their implementation as well. Now, the Indus Water Treaty was signed in September 1960 after 9 years of negotiations between India and Pakistan and was brokered by World Bank, which too is a signatory to the treaty. Under the provisions of this treaty, India got about 3.3 crores of 16.8 crore acre-feet of water in the Indus system. At current usage, India utilizes a little over 90% of its quota of Indus waters. So what is the current situation and what does India's notice signify? Also, what's the road ahead on this issue? To understand all these things in more details, we have with us a distinguished panel of experts. Let me first introduce them to you. Beginning with, we have with us former Ambassador Dilip Sinha, who is joining us. Welcome to Sansad Television, Mr. Sinha. We also have with us Dr. Shamal Kumar Sarkar, former Secretary of Water Resources with the Government of India, and Mr. Alok Bansal, Director of India Foundation, is also with us. Welcome, both of you gentlemen as well. I'll begin with you, Dr. Sarkar, and let's first start by understanding a bit more about the treaty itself. You know, what does it, I pointed out few aspects in terms of the fact that it was signed in 1960 after 9 years of negotiation. India's share is around 3.3 crore of acre-feet water out of 16.8 odd amount there. How does it work, as in what's the real sense of the treaty? How many rivers are there? What part India gets? What part Pakistan gets?
You see, there are 6 rivers, main rivers on the Indus river system. And the eastern part of the river, Robi, Beas and Utilises, the water has been allocated to India, and the western part, like Chenab, Indus and Jhelum, has been allocated to Pakistan. Even on the western part, India can use the water for certain purpose. For example, non-consumptive power purpose, for example, hydropower purpose, etc., storage purpose, etc., etc. If you look at the total amount of water available in the Indus Valley, Indus water system, 80% of the water has been allocated, has gone to the Pakistan, and the 20% of the total water in the Indus river system comes to India.
Okay.
Both the countries benefited from this system of the international inter-country water system. Both the country benefited. Pakistan benefited mostly on the irrigation point of view. India also benefited from the power canal point of view, from the dam point of view, from the canal, etc., etc. But the current, and it is a treaty with almost 62 years back it was signed.
Okay.
Not much hiccup happened, except since 2013-14 onwards, we have been facing some problem about Kishanganj and the Ralta River. So both these issues is of concern to India, because we thought that the World Bank is a neutral body, and it is at the instance of the World Bank and the other two countries, Pakistan and India, this treaty was signed, and this portion of the treaty has benefited both the cases, and because the World Bank has given a step which is in contravention of the Indus Water Treaty, particularly treaty number 12, Article 12.3, which said that both the countries can take steps to modify.
Indeed.
After consultation of the treaty. So I think this is the way the government of India wanted to
But what's
modify.
shortly, in short summary, Dr. Sarkar, before I move on to the other two guests, what's the genesis of India's notice, or the objections? So why are we objecting now?
Take the case of the Kishan Ganga project. Kishan Ganga project, there are 6 issues. 2 issues were settled by Court of Arbitration in 2013, end 2013, and 4 issues remained. So the Pakistan wanted that these issues, normally as per the treaty, there are 3 steps to resolve any problem. For example, if there is a difference, there is a commission, permanent commission is there. If there is a question, then these technical experts are there, neutral technical experts are there. And if there is a dispute, then the court of arbitration is there. So there are 3 steps. Now what happened is that one has to go step by step, one, then next, then third one.
Okay.
One cannot go simultaneously. So what happened in this case, the Pakistan wanted to go to court of arbitration on these 4 issues directly, without coming to the 2 steps in between. But unfortunately, the World Bank, who is also conversant with this treaty, wanted 2 steps parallelly. Parallelly, one cannot happen actually.
Okay.
One can happen first technical, and then you can go to the court of arbitration.
Okay.
So in this case, to avoid this, Government of India wanted that there should be a modification of the treaty.
Modification of the treaty itself. Well, we bring in, Ambassador Sinha here as well. Ambassador Sinha, let's, based on what Dr. Sarkar was explaining in terms of how the treaty has evolved, what are the main, aspects of the treaty, and what is India's objection right now. If moving further ahead from here onwards, if we have to understand specifically, as to what exactly is India's situation as of now, and how do you think Pakistan is going to respond moving further ahead? Because this is a very important treaty for, of course, for India and Pakistan both.
This is an extremely important treaty. It's also a unique treaty. There are about 200 rivers in the world which go through more than one country, 2 or more countries. And yet this is the only treaty in which the upper riparian has given not only 80% of the water to the lower riparian, but also accepted compulsory dispute settlement mechanism through international arbitration or other means. And this has given Pakistan a virtual veto over any project that India undertakes, not on the 3 eastern rivers. Those 3 eastern rivers, which have 20% of the water, they are completely under India's control. And we have built dams and projects on all these rivers. But the 80% of the water that came on the 3 western rivers, that is the 3 rivers in Jammu and Kashmir, the Indus, Chenab, and Jhelum, on those we have the right, we have certain rights. But Pakistan has always objected to every project that we have undertaken in this area. Now, initially in the early years, we used to avoid going to a dispute settlement mechanism, and we would accept Pakistan's bullying and accept its terms. But in 2005, we refused to buckle in the Baklihar case and allowed Pakistan to go to a neutral expert. A neutral expert was appointed, and that neutral expert in 2 years gave a verdict approving our project.
Okay.
So we went ahead with the Baklihar Dam. Thereafter, Pakistan objected to the Kishan Ganga project. Now, this time Pakistan felt that a neutral expert was a technical person, and therefore it should go to not to a neutral expert, but go to a dispute settlement through a court of arbitration. In the court of arbitration, again, Pakistan lost. We won the case with minor modifications in our project. Now, Pakistan has raised further objections in Kishan Ganga and also this other project called the Ratle project in the Chenab River. Now, initially, Pakistan wanted a neutral expert, meaning that it would be a technical issue decided by a neutral expert. But then Pakistan probably felt that a neutral expert on a technical issue might favor India. Therefore, decided to raise the level and say that there was a dispute and seek and sort of court of arbitration. Now, you cannot possibly have both the mechanisms, a neutral expert and a court of arbitration, settling the same issue. So India objected to that. Initially, the World Bank said that India and Pakistan should resolve the matter by mutual consultation.
Okay.
For 5 years, Pakistan did not do that. And therefore, now India has said that let's amend the agreement so that this lack of clarity on this issue can be settled. And the World Bank has gone ahead and appointed both the neutral expert, or initiated the process for having a neutral expert and a court of arbitration on the same issue.
Okay.
And this is what we object to.
Okay. Mr. Bansal, this is where we stand, as both the gentlemen explained. Now, the question is, where to from here onwards? India's notice on modifying the treaty. One, what does it mean? And two, modification in what terms?
See, as far as Indus Water Treaty is concerned, we need to understand the treaty prima facie was a very fairly just treaty, and it actually gave India the unrestricted usage of the 3 eastern rivers while giving the 3 western rivers to Pakistan. And these 3 western rivers, that is Chenab, Jhelum and Indus, primarily pass through the state of Jammu and Kashmir and Himachal Pradesh. And now these 3 western rivers also, we had complete usage of run-of-the-river power projects and domestic use. They also, all sorts of non-consumptive usage. But besides that, these rivers, we also had consumptive usage for agriculture for the local needs of Jammu and Kashmir. So that's been the case. That was the provisions. But what Pakistan has been doing, and as both Ambassador Sinha and Mr. Sarkar brought it out, that Pakistan has been objecting to anything and everything that India wants to do on the western rivers. We have been setting up a large number of run-of-the-river projects because these rivers have enormous hydropower potential, especially Chenab, which has got enormous hydropower potential, and we have been trying to set up various hydropower projects, and Pakistan has been objecting to them primarily with the purpose of delaying them. It's been wanting to delay them so that the cost goes up. And we have actually gone ahead, and earlier we would listen to Pakistan, modify them, and then what Ambassador Sinha told you, in the Bagalihar's case, we went for a neutral expert who gave, because in Bagalihar's case, neutral expert ruled in favor of India, then we went for Kishan Ganga. What is important is that now that we have given the notice, what is important is that in last so many years, from 1660, the technology has evolved. Now, when we signed the treaty in 1960, there was a question of fixed sluice gates. In fact, the freeboard was fixed. Now you can have actually you can shift the gates down below because silting has to be avoided. Now technologies have come, new designs have come where you can remove the silting that takes place in the dams. So we would definitely want to go ahead. Secondly, we would want to get rid of this perpetual issue that Pakistan keeps raising, that the moment we inform them about a project coming up, they start objecting. And start objecting on frivolous grounds, hypothetical issues. And especially, most of these projects are in series. So anything that happens actually affects the downstream project rather than affecting Pakistan directly. But Pakistan has been trying to delay it. And that's the process. I think now that we have given a notice, probably we will work out some renegotiating mechanism. Firstly, the dispute resolution mechanism will have to be clearly articulated as to how it will be done. And you cannot go ahead and have a neutral expert and the court of arbitration simultaneously. And maybe certain technical changes that are required because of the change of technology will also probably have to be brought into it.
Okay. Dr. Sarkar, your views there on the kind of changes which India is seeking in terms of modification to the agreement, as Mr. Bansal is pointing out. One aspect, of course, would be to make the dispute redressal mechanism more simple, perhaps more direct as well, to ensure that there are no undue delays based on objections raised time and again. And second, most important aspect is the use of technology as well, because the treaty was signed in 60s. The terms and reference all are somewhere around, say, more than 60 years old.
I think this is a good opportunity to look at this system as a whole. Overall, how this river system works actually. The treaty was signed 62 years back. That time, river was conceptualized in a different manner. It is an engineering subject. But river is not an engineer subject only. It is a living entity. River is a living entity. River has a link with the groundwater. River has a quality problem. river affects the people. So the river, living entity, it has an impact on the biosystem. It has an impact on the other environment, on the climate. All big issues were not there earlier, 62 years back. All these issues have come. So one of the positive side of this whole understanding should be that look the river not as a what we want from river, what the river wants also. So the demanding river demands on many things on us. So that we have to fulfill, and both the countries should look into from that angle as well.
Okay.
So it's not on the dispute resolution. It has to look at a bigger way, and that's why the consultation should be looked at a different angle also.
Okay.
That's my.
Okay. Ambassador Sinha, given the present situation, which all of us are aware of, how easy or how difficult do you believe this entire process, consultation process, and bringing modifications to this treaty would be? Because there are 3 signatories to the treaty, and 2 of them are at loggerheads with each other perpetually.
That will be next to impossible. After the Buckley decision by the neutral expert, Pakistan lost. Pakistan wanted the treaty to be revised and scrapped. Then they realized that they had got a very good deal in the treaty, and if they tried to make any changes, it would be to their detriment. Now, the issues that Dr. Sarkar mentioned about the river system and proper utilization of the river basin and treating the river as a living entity, these issues were addressed by the neutral expert in the Baglihar Dam issue. And he, in fact, mentioned both the points. One, that the issue of the river system should be looked at holistically and by the 2 parties, and also that the treaty itself had become outdated because of technical advances, and the treaty itself needed to be improved. And one of the issues that Mr. Bansal mentioned about the sluice gates, which lie at the bottom of the dam, the sluice gates had been permitted by the neutral expert in the Baglihar Dam case. But later on, when it went to the Court of Arbitration, the Court of Arbitration ruled that it was not necessary. Now, all these technical issues also need to be resolved. I don't expect Pakistan to put up a cooperative front on this, because Pakistan's whole approach is combative and obstructionist. So in this kind of a situation, I don't think it will be possible for us to revise the treaty in a meaningful way, in a cooperative manner. Because Pakistan's approach and attitude is not to its liking. And as I mentioned, this treaty is quite unique. So there's no experience anywhere else in the world to be had. In the case of the rivers that come from Tibet into India, China does not even provide us on a regular basis basic river data, and it's damming the rivers, diverting water without informing us, taking our permission, although we are the middle riparian in some cases, the lower riparian in many cases. So this kind of cooperation is non-existent in the case of the Mekong River, also between China and Southeast Asia. But India has been cooperating with Pakistan. Unfortunately, Pakistan has not been. So we'll have to simply find some way of moving ahead.
Okay. Mr. Bansal, what do you think can be the best way to move forward? Because this, as all of you are pointing out, is a very old but very important treaty, and this involves a huge ecosystem. 6 rivers, 6 major rivers on this side and that side of the border, having that impact on a huge population.
The original Indus Water Treaty was one of the few successes that we had between the 2 countries. It was a mechanism that's worked more than 6 decades reasonably well. Now, to renegotiate it under the vitiated atmosphere of today is virtually impossible to my mind. But it would put some pressure on Pakistan, because Pakistan is going through a difficult phase. Water has been a big issue, and Pakistan knows that if India abrogates this treaty, it will be a lot of pressure. So Pakistan may be brought under some amount of pressure. But I think abrogation of this treaty or modification of this treaty practically today looks very difficult to me. Okay. So some negotiations can take place. I think certain factors where the technological advancements that have taken place since 1960, which needs to be incorporated, especially about sluice gates, is very, very important, because you won't want futuristic dams to be clogged because of silt. So siltation clearing mechanism needs to be built into it. Just because the original document did not talk about it, you cannot say that it will not be done even now.
Okay.
Because technology has moved up. You can't wish away the technology. So I think this is what we can probably do by putting a little bit of pressure on Pakistan, because Pakistan at this point of time is going through a difficult phase.
Okay.
And we should be in a position, if World Bank actually agrees, should be able to bring in the latest technological advancements into this the provisions of the treaty. And I think significantly changing the treaty doesn't serve the purpose, because this treaty projects to the international community India's benign nature. It also shows to the India how just we have been in dealing with even an adversary. Despite wars, we never stopped water for Pakistan or tried to use the Indus Water Treaty to flood Pakistan or things like that. To that extent, I think it projects to the international community how a reasonable and a just country India has been. And this has established us as a very, very transparent and a benign power, unlike many other big powers in the world, which are seen as not so transparent and indulging in big bully attitude, which we have not. So to my mind, changing the treaty will take a lot of time, and to me seems very, very difficult. The minor changes which needs to be incorporated, which the neutral observer, arbitrator, the neutral expert in Bagalihar case had done, needs to be incorporated, because see, he was a technical expert.
Indeed.
And he gave the technology cannot be frozen. But the court of arbitration, unfortunately, went by the book, because they were jurists and they said sluice gates are not provided. So that's where I think that part I think we need to do, because in this particular case, Pakistan initially asked for a neutral expert and then went for court of arbitration, and World Bank has done both, which to our mind is a flawed process. You have to go one by one. If you actually had to go, once you had exercised the option of a neutral expert, you couldn't have gone for court of arbitration. I think is the point, and I think this issue will get resolved.
Let me have a final word from Dr. Sarkar before we bring this discussion to an end. Dr. Sarkar, all of you have pointed out, various areas which need to be focused upon when we are looking at the modification of the treaty. In what terms, actually, what are the key aspects which should be looked into? But the main question, again, which I asked Mr. Sinha and Mr. Bansal as well, your views on that as to what's the best way forward given the present condition, and which should be the areas which should be first in focus?
No, I think the consultation, discussion process through the permanent commission, which is there already for the last 60 years, it has by and large is okay. I mean, by and large, they are doing quite well. Both the countries, permanent, the commissioner, they in the permanent commission. But of late, we are finding this problem since Bagalihar issue. We are finding this problem, and both the countries have to resolve that the river system, Indus river system, benefited both the countries, and both the countries should see that it works to the not to the detriment of anybody. And the negotiation which took place in leading to 1960s treaty took almost 9 years to resolve both the countries, and it was signed by both the prime minister. The treaty was signed by both the prime minister of the countries.
Indeed.
So that means at a very highest level, there is a unanimity of what should this river will help and how we can move forward. So keeping that spirit in mind, I think both the countries should resolve, to discuss, and to see that how we can move forward. It is not the expert and the arbitration issue, but it is a little broader issue on us to look into, because we are living in the 21st century. So the time has come when I think we should go beyond what it is there in the treaty to some extent, looking at the developments through various mechanisms which have taken place in the past. So that is
Okay, so there it is. Thank you so much, Dr. Sarkar, and Mr. Dilip Sinha, and Mr. Alok Bansal as well for sharing your views and inputs with us and our viewers, as our experts were pointing out various aspects of the Indus Water Treaty, which exists between India and Pakistan since more than 6 decades now, and why India is raising objections on the adverse nature of steps which Pakistan has been taking for quite some time, and in what ways can the treaty be modified? Of course, the consultation process involving dialogue and discussion is the best way forward. We'll keep a close watch on all the developments on this front and come back again with a different topic. Till then, keep watching Sansad Television. Thank you.